Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mosport Park in Ontario. I'm Paul Chater, and we're here for a one-of-a-kind motor race in Canada. We have more than 100 drivers spread among 37 cars. They're going to attempt to go around this track 700 times and around the clock twice. It's the Rothmans 24-hour weekend for showroom stock cars, and it's shaping up as a battle between GM and Ford. Of the top 6 cars on the grid, we have 3 Camaros and 3 Mustangs.
Over the past 4 years, Chevrolet teams have totally dominated this series. First with the Corvettes and more recently with Camaros. In fact, they've won every race. So no one was surprised to see the 2 Morrison Cook Camaros qualified predictably on the front row. But this race was to be anything but predictable. At 2 minutes after 1 on Saturday afternoon, the green flag fell, and it was the number 98 Camaro driven by American Bob McConnell taking the lead. He politely moved over to let his teammate, local Canadian ace Peter Lockhart, take over as they headed into turn 2. More than any other form of racing, endurance racing is a team sport. Peter Lockhart will be sharing his car with 3 other drivers. When he finishes his shift of approximately 1 hour behind the wheel, he'll want to hand over the number 97 Camaro in a good position and in one piece. 4 hours later, it will be his turn again. So at the end of the first lap, the Canadian Lockhart was leading in Camaro 97. The number 98 team car was right behind, followed by 3 bright yellow saloon Mustangs running in tight formation. These 2 professional teams are the class of the field. Morrison Cook Motorsports with their immaculately prepared Camaros versus the saloon Mustangs from Ford and General Tire. Like a baseball manager plotting a batting order, the team managers have to set driver rotations.
Well, we've been here for 3 days testing, and some drivers, because of our experience, will be better in that first stint where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of action, and some drivers will wait and put in later when things calm down a little bit.
But on the track, there was no sign of things calming down.
The adrenaline gets running at the start, and there's no doubt. Getting out front is a psychological advantage. Putting a lap on the competitor is also one. But I would suggest to you that that settles down within the first half hour. And because it's not a sprint race, and because getting to corner 1 is not the absolute necessity of this type of racing, I think you'll see a very clean race. You'll see the pace settle off relatively quickly and develop into what we call a race pace that ensures that what we believe will be the pace that the cars can live at for that 24-hour period.
After 40 laps, the second-place Mustang heads for pit lane for fuel, a driver change, and 4 new tires. Before this race is over, the Saleen pit crew will have changed more than 200 wheels. The wheels on this showroom stock Saleen Mustang are still bolted on with 5 nuts each, and the gas must still be pumped through a normal nozzle, just like your car. But try to get this kind of service at your local gas station. As the afternoon wore on, another factor came into play. The heat. It was hot, sticky, and 34 degrees at Mosport. This was the top 5 after 1 hour. The Morrison Cook Camaros and the 3 Saleen Mustangs shared the lead lap with the Nissan 300 ZX Turbo in 6th place. 23 hours still to go.
I think we were about an hour and 15, 20 minutes in the car, pushing fairly quick. Turning 142s, which is a good race pace, but it's humid and there's no air passing through the car. It's very stale. There's a fly in there. It's just circling around. It's landing on the dash the odd time, so there's not much air moving inside the car.
The tires holding out in the heat?
The tires are working great.
What about the drivers reporting the heat in the car?
Well, I allowed them the pleasure of lowering the right window.
How far did you let them lower it?
All the way down, just to give them a little air in the cars.
Is that a major concession?
Yeah, for me.
I expected it to be this fast the first 10 laps, and then I expected sanity to prevail, and obviously it hasn't yet. I think the heat's gotten to everybody, Canadians and Americans alike. But the pace is pretty fast. The guys in the Mustang I really intend to make this a Chevy Ford Goodyear general battle today, and that's really what we've seen the first hour and a half.
Do you feel at any time like you're fighting the entire GM factory?
Well, I guess you always feel that when you're racing against the Camaros, and there's nothing better than a Ford versus Chevy battle.
And the battle raged. Over the next couple of hours, the lead changed 6 times. Both Camaros and 2 of the Mustangs took turns out front. Here, John Heinrich in the leading Camaro gets passed by Steve Saleen in Mustang number 19. Just behind Carradine in the other Morrison Cook Camaro, and George Fulmer in the number 21 Celine Mustang. Carradine, watching his mirrors intently, gets passed by the veteran Fulmer going into turn 8. In the fourth hour of the race, the Chevy troops come back. The race-leading number 19 Mustang is being chased by the 97 Camaro with Peter Lockhart at the wheel. Lockhart takes back the lead for Chevrolet. The other Canadian on the Morrison Cook Camaro team, Robin Buck, was also moving up.
There was a Mustang about 4 seconds ahead of me, and I got into a whole bunch of traffic. He opened the gap up, and then once I was clear, I was able to put in some fairly decent lap times and close the gap up and pass him.
Celine Mustang, number 19, in the lead with Tommy Archer at the wheel. 3 seconds back, it was the white number 97 Camaro under pressure from Celine Mustang, number 20. Robin Buck's number 98 Camaro held down 4th spot. All 4 of them were on their lead lap, separated by just 11 seconds. With the leader just ahead, Heinrichs brings his Camaro into the pits. Now the race is out of the driver's hands. Everything depends on the crew. They've got to get the car back on the track with fresh rubber and a fresh driver before they go a lap down on the Mustangs. Crew chief Glenn Hallett stands back, the choreographer. Watching every detail, he barks instructions. This time, he likes what he sees.
The cars are working very, very well, and the crew's doing a fantastic job, the Morrison Cook guys. And I think, yeah, we can keep it up all night.
You surprised by the pace the Mustangs have been pushing you at?
Well, the Mustangs are quick, definitely quick. And yeah, I think they're going to push us to see what we do, how we react to the situation. But I think we can match them head to head.
Great preparation, slick pit stops, and talented drivers are all necessary to win. But in a 24-hour race, you also need luck. In racing, luck usually means not being in the wrong place at the wrong time. An enduro driver's greatest fear is being taken out of the race due to someone else's accident. Accidents happen all the time. By the end of the race, you won't find a single car without some body damage. Yes, there's danger involved, but as motor racing goes, this is about as safe as it gets. When a car is disabled in a dangerous place, the pace car comes out to slow the field.
After more than 7.5 hours of racing here at Mosport, the pace is slowed slightly behind the pace car while they clear up an accident. But that's not been the story of this race so far. What we predicted as a battle between GM and Ford has been much tighter than anyone thought. One of the Celine Mustangs is in first place. There's a Camaro in second, a Mustang third, a Camaro fourth, and the third Mustang running in fifth place. All 5 cars have led this race. There have been more than 20 lead changes. And as the temperatures drop and the sun goes down and the speeds get a little higher, we can expect the competition to get even tougher. But there are still 16.5 hours left in this event.
Atmosphere in the pits in the wee hours of the morning. It resembles some garishly lit refugee camp for mechanics who are either comatose or so jumped up on adrenaline, caffeine, and junk food that they really shouldn't be allowed to operate heavy machinery. Everywhere you turn, there are floodlights and the din of 36 Honda generators. But always the race continues. Twice every hour and 20 minutes, a Morrison Cook Camaro enters the pits. And every time, the crew has to leap over the wall, each crew member watching his opposite number on the Saleen Mustang team and racing every bit as much as the drivers themselves.
Well, I just finished my second stint, and yeah, as the night gets into the late hours, it definitely gets harder to concentrate, so got to be aware of what's going on all the time. Hopefully we'll survive the night and then we'll sort it out in the morning, but yeah, the top 4 or 5 cars are all very close. We're only a lap down on third, and anything can happen. There's some back markers doing lots of crazy things out there, and it could put one of the leaders off.
We made up some good time in that stint, and without a doubt, of the 3 that I've done since the race started, that was the easiest. You know, it's cool at night, and you can focus on the job at hand. And we started to get into some really good times, and really chewed away at their lead, and to be back on the lead lap is very important at this stage of the race.
You pushing the car much harder?
Well, it wasn't as pushing much harder. I really concentrated on carrying a lot of speed into the corners, which is very hard to do at night. You automatically try and back off at night, and your eyes tell you one thing, and your mind tells you another. So you've got to use what your mind tells you, what you've been doing in the daytime, and you got to push the car a little harder through the corners. But generally, I was sticking to the game plan, not abusing the car, hardly touching the brakes, and just carrying a lot of speed in the corners.
With the number 19 car looking very strong in the lead, the Saleen Mustangs start to have trouble. Number 21 has electrical problems, and after 2 pit stops, crew chief Comstock decides to replace the alternator. They expect to replace things like brake pads, even wheel bearings, but they've never had an alternator fail before. Like surgeons working as a team, they perform the operation. 10 minutes later, they jump-start the patient several laps off the pace in 5th position.
The rules are very, very basic on the engines. The engines have to be as they come from the showroom. So we can look at the inside of the engine and we can maximize all the tolerances, but we have to use the stock pieces. And that's what makes the series exciting and competitive, is that it's really the cars that you buy in your showroom.
Victories in these races really mean something to the average consumer. If Chevy beats Ford or General beats Goodyear, the manufacturers are going to advertise the fact. With so much money and pride on the line, you'd expect to find cheating.
Well, there is some of that, but you know, the SCCA works very closely to administer the series and make the cars as equal as possible. If an advantage is displayed by one team consistently, they'll give the other team a little something to try and equalize it to make it a good race.
The Sports Car Club of America has done a very good job of equalizing these cars. The Mustang and the Camaro run at the same minimum weight, have 5-liter V8 engines, 4-wheel disc brakes, 16-inch wheels, and low-profile tires. But that doesn't make the driving easy.
Well, we got great lights, so that's not a problem seeing the track, but I think it's a concentration. You really have to concentrate, because at night, one small mistake and you can be off, and that's it.
Mechanics can't rest, but the off-duty drivers share a team motorhome away from the noise of pit lane.
Normally we'll just do our driver change and then we'll head down. Whoever is being in the car will head down and try and get a couple hours sleep.
What happens is that the drivers who are not used to driving in the dark have a lot of trouble judging the lights of the oncoming cars. They also have trouble themselves figuring out where to turn in. It's a common problem at night that they tend to overshoot where they would normally turn in and their cars get a little bit squirrely, and you've seen some of the damage on the cars tonight is a testament to that.
Saab's factory entry in this race ran into problems when one of its journalist drivers tangled with a Honda at turn 3. Both cars were severely damaged, but in keeping with the press-on regardless spirit of endurance racing, they're going to patch up this 9000 turbo, even if it means stripping a spare car for parts. The great Eric Carlson, a driver who won countless international rallies for Saab in the 60s, oversees the repairs. The Saab fan club anxiously waits to see if 3 Saabs can be grafted into one. When all else fails, there's always tape. Repairs complete, they rejoined the race and went on to finish second in class, 100 laps behind. But as Carlson put it, finishing will be victory enough. After 14 hours of racing, the number 19 Mustang was still running strongly with a 3-lap lead over the 97 Camaro. Finally, after winning 24 consecutive races, the Chevrolet forces had to admit they were in trouble.
Peter, it's creeping up on 4 a.m. You're about to get in the car again and you're 3 laps down. Can you make it back?
Well, we possibly could. You know, the Mustangs take more time in the pits than we do. They've been going through brakes at a rate that means that they probably will have to change rotors again, and that's a time-consuming process. I suspect that it may come down to the last hour. It may be the mad dash to the flag.
His teammates at number 98 were even farther off the pace, having already stopped to change the Camaro's differential. General Motors hopes we're now riding with Lockhart, Heinrich, Smith, and Knowles, the drivers.